Hello and welcome back to Mr. Excalibur. My name is Arthur and today we have a katana from HuaWei. A lot of people have been asking me to do a review of a HuaWei sword. I do kind of like to stay in that very affordable range when talking about swords, and from what people said, HuaWei is the way to go. Now, to just give you an idea, starting right off from the very top here, this sword was $200. $200. $200.00. In fact, technically, when I saw it on my invoice, it was $199.98. And to top it all off, no shipping. There was no shipping charge. This was shipped, and this is kind of conjecture on my part. This was shipped to me directly from HuaWei, which is, of course, another Chinese-made, Japanese-style maker of katanas. And it came to me, as you guys will see in the unboxing footage, in one of these, basically custom-fitted styrofoam yellow-wrapped containers, which of course falls apart when you take it apart, but that's fine. But it was amazing to me, and this thing really was surprising. This katana, now this really doesn't have much of a name to it. HuaWei really doesn't give specific names to their swords outside of basically descriptions of the kind of blade geometry it is, how the blade has been sharpened, what kind of material they use in the blade. So it's a very technical description. So when you guys see the title for the video, essentially it's their 9260 Unokubi Zukuri mat cutter. That's how they describe it. There's a somewhat longer description in the name, but essentially that's it. And what's really amazing about this is, number one, and I can't get past this, and that is the price. HuaWei really knocked it out of the park with this one. This thing was an absolute fun to cut with. Check out the cutting footage with this. It was a lot of fun. This thing came with a great edge. This thing is through tempered, mono-tempered. And that's how 9260 steel should be worked with. It should be mono-tempered. And quite honestly, for someone who's practicing, I find these mono-tempered steel blades to be a lot more practical, and I find them to be a lot more economical and, quite honestly, better for somebody who is in fact practicing. So I really enjoyed this. First of all, it comes with the Unokubi Zukuri blade geometry. We've got the bohi here that goes almost about halfway up the blade, and then along the back portion here, the spine of the sword actually somewhat narrows some, almost into a false edge. But I mean, this is not a false edge, but it does just a little bit more to lighten up the blade, and this sword is incredibly light. Now, for me, for my hands, for my height, I find the Tsuka to be a little bit short, but that would be probably the only thing that I could possibly find wrong with this model. For the money, what you're getting, it is just an incredible buy. Now, as far as how they can get away with how inexpensive the sword is, I think there's a couple things that we could probably point out. First of all, there's no particular theme on this sword. It's a very generic tsuba, as you guys can see. The tsuba actually this is something that's somewhat unique. I haven't seen this in other companies. This has been CNC cut. Okay, so basically they have a sheet of metal, they cut these out. You can feel kind of how sharp on the edges where it's been cut. It's been laser cut, or plasma torch cut. You can see where that's been done. It's not so sharp that it's uncomfortable for the hand, but it definitely stands out for something that's been cast, let's say. The Fushin Kushira, the other fittings, don't match. I mean, they're black, and so you really can't tell, but I mean, if you look at the, the little bit of casting that they've done, they don't really match. There's no real theme on either one, but I mean, it works. It works from a very simple, visual point of view. The manuki here on the inside of the Ito wrap, they're nice little ingots. They don't necessarily fit any kind of theme, so maybe that's some way that they could get around, it being all that much. The tsuba, that may be another way. Another thing that is worth noting is, and someone can correct me if they know better, but neither the koguchi or the kuragata on the side here have horn on them. I believe this is probably wood, and I don't think it's capped here in horn at all either. That may be another way that they can get away with, it being a little bit more expensive, a little less expensive. But I gotta say, for $200, you are getting a pretty awesome training tool here. And even aesthetically, I think the Unokubi Zukuri shaping on the blade is just dead on. They got it right. And I sound like a broken record. $200. If you are looking for a sword, and for, I would say, even a company to start looking at to begin building your collection for katanas, I would say HuaWei is definitely a contender, a place to look. Just to give you an idea, their most expensive sword, their most expensive sword that they have in their entire catalog online is about $600. And if this is what you get at $200, I'd be very interested in seeing what you can get for $600. Again, for me being someone who's 6'4", it's a little on the short side, but you know what? For the value, I don't think you can really beat this. So I think it goes without saying that, yeah, I would definitely recommend this. For the price, I would say some of these other companies like HuaWei or even Musashi, they're going to find this hard to beat. They're going to find the quality on this sword very, very hard to beat, especially at that price point. So check out some of the footage we got here. I've got a couple of the people who reviewed this. I'm going to do some commentary with what they had to say and what they did with the sword. Check out the cutting footage on this. This thing was a lot of fun. It was super easy to cut with. And of course, the unboxing, see how it came to me. I hope this has been informative for you. I hope the other information in the video will also be informative. Enjoy, take a look, enjoy the music, enjoy the rest of the video, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now. This is the unboxing footage of the HuaWei 9260 steel Unokubi Zukuri mat cutter. And as you guys can see, it comes in one of these yellow tape wrapped styrofoam containers. Now these things are very disposable, but they are pretty comfy as far as making sure the sword is well cushioned. This is very similar to how swords come from Swords of Northshire, as well as a few other companies coming out of China. One of the really nice things about this sword right out of the box was that it came with a sword bag. Normally I don't really care much about them, but this one was actually really, really nice. It was a nice thick cotton that they made this out of. Now once you get the sword out of their bag, the handle and parts of the top of the saya is all encased in plastic wrap. So you have quite a bit of stuff to get through there. When you pull the sword out of the saya, it has an additional very thin plastic covering over the blade. I'm not exactly too fond of that, because every once in a while, depending on how long the blade can be left inside there, I mean, you know, depending on what the manufacturing process is,
that plastic can actually start falling apart and actually can stay inside the saya, and it's really hard to get it out. But thankfully this sword was essentially not necessarily made to order, but they did have one apparently newly made, ready to send me when I ordered it. It does come with a nice coat of thin oil to make sure the blade doesn't rust on the way over. It came very sharp. I was very impressed with how sharp this blade came right out of the box. And the paper cutting was just, it shaved it right through. Now, the thing that people always ask about paper cutting is, well, how much does that really prove how sharp the blade is? It says that it's sharp enough, and that's what it really comes down to. This sword, if you are treating it like the weapon that it is, shows that it is sharp to do what it was designed to do. Now, if you need me to define for you what that is, perhaps you need to look at what a sword is designed to do. This is not sporting equipment. This is not just meant to cut through tatami mats. It had a nice fit right into the saya. Not a lot of blade rattle. That puts it way ahead of some other models that are down in this price range. And it handled just very, very nicely. As I mentioned in the intro, getting the sword right out of the box, it's a very light sword. Everything was nice and tightly put together. All the pieces were firmly in place, no shake, no rattle. Didn't see any waves along the construction of the blade. I mean, it really came out right out of the box in very impressive condition. And again, this is for a $200 sword, which is even more impressive still. This is our friend again that we've seen before to do some reviews on the sword, and he does some nice cutting here. Does some cutting that I usually don't do, and that's pool noodles. But he's showing exactly what it's doing, and I think he mentions right out of the box that he too was pretty impressed with how sharp it was. He did not further hone the edge. I believe I may have gotten that wrong. If he's watching right now, free to enter into the comments. Oh yeah, I actually sharpened it up. I can't imagine why, quite honestly, seeing how it came out of the box myself. But as you can see, pool noodles, because of how light they are, it really takes a sharp edge to just whittle them down like that. And here he's just going through them like crazy. Now he puts it through a pretty mean test here. This is a big, heavy wrapped roll of newspapers. Now, this is where this sword is going to fail just a little bit, simply because it is so light. It simply just doesn't have the weight and mass to push through that kind of heavy stuff. He goes through some pretty heavy plastic bottles. Double cut here, goes through them both just like hot knife through butter. So it's pretty hard to refute the few reviews out there on this thing. This is our friend, of course, Mountaineer Samurai. He does some cutting here too. In this cutting test, he's going to do some tatami mat. I don't know if this is double tatami mat or not. You can say he's having a little difficulty with it, but pretty much, I mean, it cuts right through. Now he's taking some pretty big honking swings here. But it's getting the job done. So, it is quote unquote a mat cutter. So one would hope that, in the hands of anybody, quite honestly, it should get the job done. All right, now we're going to see how this sword does in my hands. This sword was really fun to cut with, not because just because it came in such great shape, such a solid build. all the, everything that you need tightly fitting on the sword was tightly fit. The Ito wrap, the construction, everything. But also its just overall fit and finish was very well done. I actually had this compared to a cold steel dragonfly katana, which is actually twice as much as this thing, and it also has an Unokubi Zukuri blade. And I put these next to him, and my wife looked at him and said, "Oh yeah, the HuaWei." She didn't know the name of it, but she said, "Yeah, that one just looks better." Handling this thing was a dream. Now, mind you, I'm a big guy, so this sword really wasn't a problem to handle. The handle was a little short for me, but aside from that, it moved. It was very lively in the hand. And then when it came to actually cutting these bottles, you guys will see this. I tried to get a wide range this time around of different stuff to cut, and I think it achieved that. One of the things that I really liked about this sword was that it really took not a lot of energy to get it going, to stop it moving. It felt very comfortable in the hand. The Ito wrap is not genuine silk. I believe it is a synthetic, so it's neither silk nor is it cotton. It actually kind of puts it in the middle of how it feels, if that's something that you are measuring as far as how good it feels. I decided to use gloves here with it. Now, this bottle right here is one of the heavier plastic bottles that I often actually kind of have a problem cutting with, and it cut the top clear off. Now watch this. Just wait for it. This thing is empty, and on this bottle, heavier plastic, it is shaving parts off the top of it as a static cut. And there's another one. And let's see, do I get another one out of this? Yep. I missed it. So I tried again. Yep. Shaved it off even more. Another static cut. That's how nicely sharpened this thing is. And I got another one. I think this next one, I missed. And I think in the next one, I batted it away. Yeah, there it goes. So here we go, another one. Again, a heavy juice bottle, and cut its head off. Swinging right on through it. I was just really impressed with how this thing was cutting. And let's call it, call a spade here. I'm not exactly the best cutter in the world. So this sword was, I'll be honest with you, this sword was spoiling me. Normally I get one good cut out of this, and there's another one. And those aren't milk bottles. Those are the juice bottles. Now this one, these are these ones with this very kind of hourglass neck to them. I won't mention the brand name, but you guys can figure it out, I'm sure. Especially if you're watching this in the United States. And watch this. This was fun. Bink. Right off. And it's still standing. And the bottle is still standing. So check this out. This is a heavy water bottle that I got. This has got about a gallon jug of water. It's not milk. This is a heavier water bottle. Cut the top off. Right off. And then when it came again, so one static cut and wind up and one more. Now it's a little heavy, so I didn't get a third one out of it, but man. Now this is a different kind of cut that I've been practicing, where you place the sword directly over the target to see how much you can just push the sword, how much you can let the sword do for itself. On these milk bottles, you can get away with this because they're so light. But you can see just by holding it over and pressing it through, I was able to just cleave these things almost from top to bottom. And again, I was just overly impressed with how these things did. Now this thing's empty. It's got half of it gone. It still shaved the top of it off. So here I decided to have some fun here. It's a backhanded swing. There goes the very top. Yeah, pay me $100 to do that again. And another ring off the top. And another ring. And, whoop, that was a miss. And another ring. And I'm thinking, okay, can I really get away with another one? Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's try one more. Only this one I'm not going to really put much skill in. I'm just going to see if I can get it off without knocking the box over. And whoop, another ring. Now this sword is made of 9260, which means it does have enough carbon in it to make it a high carbon steel, which means if you don't wipe all the water and all the other muck that was in those bottles off, the sword's going to get mucked up fast and is going to rust fast. So, you know, I often use WD-40, not necessarily as a lubricant, but as something that does provide a little lubrication, but mostly it washes all of that stuff off. It's also a degreasing agent that will take a lot of that muck off of it. So whatever you do, make sure you clean the swords off and, you know, put a nice oil on them before you put them back in the scabbard so you have them to play with another day.
There's always room in life for this.